Hey, Corey, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And you and I met in a mastermind together and with our business coach that we shared in common. And I'm just really excited for this conversation because I know we've talked a little bit about your story before, but I'm really excited that you're willing to share with our audience here more about what you've learned and your lessons. Can you just tell a little bit of background about you, what you do, just to kind of set the scene for us?
Yeah, sure. I'm a coach and I support entrepreneurs in rewiring their subconscious mind for massive success, specifically around finances, because I myself had to walk that journey, which we're about to dive
Mhm.
right on into.
Right. So we were talking about how you overcame a large balance of debt. So it really starts with tell our listeners about your journey, the beginning of your journey, how you ended up there. Um, as I put it, mistakes you might be grateful for in the long run. But tell us about how that came to be.
Absolutely. I feel like my debt story is multifaceted because I have been an entrepreneur for
Mhm.
my entire life, and I have dug myself out of debt multiple different times, and every single time it has grown in a number. And this last time was really the pivotal piece of like this needs to stop. And what I discovered along the way was that my debt story was really connected to some things that I needed to heal from my past. So originally, I'm a single mom and I ended up in $20,000 worth of debt. And that was really based on the fact that I was a single parent income in the middle of the real estate boom and bubble pop. And I kept throwing money. It was like throwing good money after bad, thinking I was going to dig myself out of a situation by investing in better marketing. And I invested in the wrong things, like spent a lot of money on a website that really wasn't going to generate income for me, and threw money at a lot of different things that showed no return until it got to a place where I was really in a bad financial situation and decided to switch careers, which of course made me step back a few notches in terms of my earning potential, and dug myself out of that debt only to find myself right back in it at a larger scale. So, and each time the mistakes that I made really were investing in things that basically buying a Ferrari when I could have bought a Honda Civic and when I should have bought a Honda Civic. So I let my ego drive decisions, thinking that if the more money I threw at something inside of my business, the bigger results, the bigger success I was going to have. And that coupled with just overspending in general, feeling like when the money was coming in and it was good, banking on the fact that it was going to continue to come in at that rate. And as you know, we've had lots of different world changes and financial situations shift, and I wasn't really prepared for them.
Yeah, we can't predict the future when it comes to that stuff. And you can't also time everything the way that you want to and be able to do that. So all you have to do is really just take care of yourself. But so talking about how you entered into that much of debt, and these are all mistakes, by the way, as you can tell, they're not, am I saying mistakes? I guess I just mean, you laid this out as, spending more than I needed to for certain things and investing in the wrong direction at the time. You know, this happens all the time. This isn't like everyone has related to this. I've related to this. I've invested in the wrong thing too soon in my business and gone, well, I got to go redo that now because I made a change or did something. And it's so easy. I don't think people realize if you've never been in debt, it is so easy to enter into that and then just keep, I guess, ending up in that cycle, right? So, paying it off and then entering into more and using debt as a funding tool. Um, so talk to us about how you decided to, I guess what was going through your mind at the time? Because obviously the hindsight's 2020 and you're like, yeah, I just kept entering to debt and I increased my balance. But what was going through your mind in terms of justifying it? Was it just that if I invest more, I get better things in return?
Well, yeah. So I kept thinking, this is the thing this is going to be the thing I'm going to invest in that's
Hmm.
going to help pull me out of it. And I
Yeah.
would put myself behind the eight ball, making like basically having no cushion. And all that takes is like one bad parking ticket to send you into a spiral, or your
Hmm.
laptop breaking and you must invest in a new laptop because that's how you run your business.
Hmm.
Yet here I'd be with myself maxed out on credit cards and barely being able to make the minimum payments.
Right. And what did that feel like for you in terms of, what were the things that were coming up for you as that was going on? And when did you kind of go, enough is enough?
Well, so it's multifaceted because actually what I really discovered is that there was some part of me that liked the stress, but
Oh.
I was in a constant state of stress. And I think that when I was there and you'd end up in this sort of feeling of being in an emergency state, I was always able to rise to the occasion and pull in money and clients from anywhere. And so it was validation to me that it was working, right? That first of all, like my back against the wall, there was this like, I don't know, not martyr syndrome, but there was a winning feeling of being able to pull yourself out of the fire. So there was a validation that was happening there for me. But I started to see how stressful it was and how if I could do this in this state of living, I should be able to do this and turn it into a situation where I actually had some freedom and some peace. If I could make it work when I was in the middle of panic and feeling like the whole world was crumbling around me, why could I not show up and do that in my business when things were good? And I could turn that into a wealth building talent versus say, pulling myself out of the fire sort of talent.
Yeah, like the wealth building versus the debt building. And yeah, that, you know what? And that's an interesting, I was not expecting that, to be honest, for you to say that. Like, I actually liked the stress of it. And I go, you know what? I can relate to that. Going like, it's kind of the rush of being your own hero when you're in distress and then, repeat the same episode over and over again. That's not uncommon. That's something I'm going, yeah, I could see how that would be something that you actually get hooked onto and don't realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
100%. So when did you decide to commit to getting out of debt in a big way? Because I know that that's not an easy decision where you just wake up. It's like quitting smoking or something or anything else. You just go, yeah, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, what was that kind of moment for you? Or was that more than a moment? It was more of like a progressive thing.
I think it was a building, but there was a moment because I equate this to if anybody has ever lost the same 5 pounds, I feel like that's what I was doing in terms of money. I was shedding the same amount of debt and I would get to a place inside of like getting things paid off and I would go, I can buy the thing. I can eat the pizza, right? You get to that number on
Mm-hmm.
the scale. And I say this because I come from a fitness background. So it like
Oh,
really
100%. You're in good company here. Yeah.
so it's something that really my brain I can wrap my head around. And I was like, this is absolutely bonkers. You
Mm-hmm.
keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So it's really time for you to get off the roller coaster. And it was essentially at the beginning of COVID. I think we all started to reassess our lives and the way that we're doing things. And I just realized that this is not how I wanted to do or be or feel anymore. And if I wasn't going to make a change now, I might never make a change. And so I really just committed to it. And there was no better opportunity than in that moment when there was space and time and everyone was reassessing.
I believe that because that was kind of a forced pause for a lot of us to then go and say, like, evaluate exactly where we were at and go, okay, I can change this right now. We all just hit pause for a second in all the routines that we had. And then really think that caused us to all revisit what we were doing and almost pause and then take a look around and go, what am I doing? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, in the journey of pulling out, there was a lot of benefits that came during that time too, that afforded me to be able to really pull out of the debt that I was in at the time with interest rates or being paused on certain cards or having
Mm.
a moment to maybe not make a payment on a card and put it all towards another to get one whole balance gone.
Right. So let's talk about that. The strategies that you used in order to start this process of overcoming your balance of debt. What was the highest balance at the given point in time?
I had several maxed out credit cards and a business loan.
Mhm.
So the credit card I was at 39,000 was the one that was completely maxed out, and then I had several others.
Right. So you had, I mean, how much was the total debt though, when all was said and done at like the highest point when you had all
$195,000.
$195,000? So that's more than most of your salaries for you, those of you listening who have corporate jobs. That's what someone could make in a year. Corey, you overcame that. And how long did it take you to get out of that debt?
Fully just a little over a year.
There you go. So you
Yeah.
essentially made a year's salary in that, like you dedicated a year's salary basically of getting out of debt. And more than that, really, that's a decent salary. So $195,000 in roughly a year. Tell us how you were able to do that. You know, not every little nitty gritty thing that you necessarily did, but what were the key factors that led to you being able to do that?
So I use the avalanche method if you're
Mm-hmm.
familiar with it, which is so basically you take all of your debt, you write it out and you put down the minimum payment next to it. And you also note what the interest rates are next to it. Figure out exactly what it is that your lowest monthly payment or your minimum payment is, and then look at what resources you have to allocate towards the total amount that you could possibly throw at it. And then from there, you look at all of those numbers and you choose the highest interest rate and you make the minimum payments on everything underneath of that and throw the largest amount at the highest interest rate until you conquer that debt, and then go down and look at the next.
So you're basically looking at what is doing the most damage and how do I stop the biggest holes that are leaking, right? And then you carry yourself down that ladder.
Yes, absolutely. So that was the first piece. Second piece, I actually went through, did a massive, huge purge and clean out of my home. And so I started selling things on Amazon and eBay, from the books that I wanted to get rid of to I actually had an obscene amount of clothing, Lululemon, which actually goes for sometimes more than you paid for it. And I sold about everything inside my fitness closet that I did not need or want any longer. And I sold them all for more than I paid for them,
Wow.
which, yeah, little known fact.
Wow.
And I did that with like a lot. I mean, I had a whole closet full of clothes that I just wasn't wearing. I didn't want anymore. So I did that with a lot of my personal belongings. And I took every single penny of that and put that towards debt, was one extra piece that I did. And then I actually created a passive stream of income inside of my business. And I took all of the proceeds of that. So I did not touch a penny of it for anything else, and allocated that money in addition towards the debt. And then the fourth piece that I did after that was really doing a massive audit on my personal spending, which was, I mean, you basically walk into Target and $500 falls out of your pocket. So
Oh, no question.
there's, Target runs became like, I just don't do that anymore because it's really easy to say yes to a $15 t-shirt that you don't really need on multiple different things like that in an entire shopping trip. So I basically committed to buying any of the things that I needed that you might go into Target. I'd either order them or have them on delivery. Some people might shoot me on this one, but from Amazon. So if you automate certain things through Amazon, you actually get a discount, and then you receive them on this, a monthly type of, or bi-monthly or whatever timing you put
Yeah.
towards that, and you end up saving.
Yeah, it's on a subscription basis, but it's also, if you're buying it at least once a month, then why not? Because it takes the guesswork out of it. It gives you a discount. And it also, here's the other thing but the side effect of this, and I support that. The side effect of this is like, there's, let's say it's like laundry detergent or something that you buy every single month or every other month. You can put that on that auto order. But what's cool is when I think, oh, I need to buy that, and I go on Amazon to buy it, it's just like a Target run for me. Then I'm like, while I'm here, while I'm here, oh, look at that. They have a special on this and a special on that. And look at this, it's on Prime. And it removes the temptation of more shopping experiences. The more I automate it, the more I actually don't, it's kind of like sugar. It's like, because I don't have it as often, I don't crave it. So if I'm not shopping as much, I don't really crave going into shopping more.
Yeah, absolutely. It reduces the impulsive buying. It's like
Right.
you never go grocery shopping hungry because you'll come out of the grocery store with so many other things. It's the same thing. You have to commit to only buying what you need, not the impulse buys.
Yeah. And I think that we over justify, the simple $15 t-shirt, the couple of things here and there. And the next thing you know, it's an hour later and you're checking out. And like you said, $500 just fell out of your pocket at Target when you went in for milk. So it's a very real thing. So I want to go back to what people don't associate with coming out of debt. They always assume that, like, okay, you had a huge influx of income that must have covered it, and that, you got lucky or something happened, right? But what I love about your story is that you got resourceful. You 100% got resourceful. And, the grab your stuff and sell it. Why do you think that I'm under the assumption, but I feel like there's a stigma around that. Like it feels desperate, or it feels like that's the last resort, is like, get all my stuff and sell it. But I honestly think it's such a viable thing, because you have money sitting around your house in the form of clothing and other things that you could easily turn into cash.
Absolutely. I mean, I think there was a moment where I thought it was a little bit, like, is this desperate? And it was someone who gave me a tip. They're like, you got to go sell the Lululemon stuff. You have drawers and drawers and drawers. And I was like, I was just getting ready to get rid of all that stuff. But hold on. And I mean, I literally, from all the Lululemon stuff that I sold, I think that I brought in a little over $11,000. And I'm actually not kidding at all. Might have even been more than that.
You could buy a
So
car for your leggings. Like,
I, for my leggings, my tank tops,
what?
and yes, there's a complete aftermarket. And there's a few things I would say about that. First of all, when you think about it, if someone is actually buying versus going in and buying new, you are contributing to a level of saving the environment there, because was that upset, not upselling, what I can't think of the word for it,
Yeah.
but you're basically recycling, right?
Yeah.
And so now that just because you're not using it anymore, someone else could. So I don't know. I very quickly, after I listed a few things and started seeing how much money I could actually bring in very effortlessly from that. And it's so easy because you can print the label straight from there. And if you have things coming in from Amazon, you just keep the boxes, so you don't, or bags that they come in, so you don't even have to purchase anything really. Just, yeah, new boxes. All you need is tape and a printer, and you put a label on there and you're good to go.
Exactly. And it does help because, it's just sharing that, like you said, it's about the environment too. And it's just recycling what you have and putting it to better use. And the other thing you can do, you can donate, but you won't realize, it's not like Goodwill gives you a check for that. You get tax savings from it, but it's not the same as actually selling it and, and getting the cash for it. So I always tell people, if you can sell it, great. If not, you can donate it. But if there's a market for it, wow, that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. So doing the purge was the best thing ever. On top of the fact that your environment, I think, truly affects your mindset in so many ways, just in terms of productivity and performance, happiness. And who knows, was I buying something because my environment needed to be cleaned up? And so having a cleaner space.
Yeah.
Not that I wasn't a hoarder, by the way. I feel like I need to classify that, or like to tell everyone. It's not like I was a hoarder, but I feel like the simpler you live, and if you really think about your clothes too, we end up wearing the same stuff. I mean, how often do you end up throwing on the same t-shirt, same tank top? You're pulling the same stuff off the top of the laundry basket, and you have all these other options sitting there that you don't really need.
Right. I go through a purge every season or so, where I go, if I haven't worn it in 6 months, I ain't going to wear it again now. So there you go. It's gone. And it breaks my heart, even if the tags are still on it and it's brand new, I can try to sell it. I can try to return it or donate it, but it doesn't have a place in the closet. It could be better used by somebody else out there. So I believe that too. But I think that we underestimate what we have in our homes in terms of assets that are worth something. And it was an awakening when I heard Chris Harder's story, which we have a mutual mentor in Chris. And when they were talking about how they purged everything after the economic crash in 2008,
Mhm.
they sold everything that they had even just bought. I think they had just furnished their house and then went and sold everything. And I was actually thinking, that's a lot of money to that you can make in selling the stuff. Cause I think we go right after the like get rid of it. But it's like, no, 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 wait, there's money in that. There's money in these things.
Absolutely. I mean, during the part of the things that I sold during that time was I had a whole entire studio full of fitness equipment,
Mm.
and I sold 90% of it off to people who were really desperate for anything that they could get their hands on to work out at home.
Exactly. What an opportune moment too. And then you mentioned you're doing the debt avalanche method, which
Mhm.
there's the debt snowball and the debt avalanche. There's different methods you can use. And by the way, the method that works for you personally. There's different acceptable ways to do this. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's all roads to the same destination, is how I put it. But you want to be getting out of debt. And what were some of the struggles that you went through while you were coming out of debt? Like it seemed to be working, but I know it probably wasn't easy.
Oh, it definitely wasn't easy. I mean, I feel like it started to become a little bit of a game. So it actually did become fun for me. So I wouldn't say that I massively struggled. I did in the very beginning wrestle a little bit with letting go of some of the things that and not the things I was selling, but more, the little extras that we get so accustomed to, which I don't do a Starbucks coffee every day, but that I feel like is a very easy thing for people to wrap their head around, is like how much money you leak out on things like buying a Starbucks coffee every day, where you could just make it at home for a fraction of the price. So there was a lot of things like that. And so I guess I was like a mourning of of the decadence and the luxuries, but I also knew that I had to get past this if I was ever going to be able to indulge in other luxuries later. I had to get this debt off of me, or it was going to it was I don't know, it was going to kill me probably.
What you just described, it's so funny because what you just described sounds so much like a fitness journey.
Yeah.
Saying like it sounds so much like this was literally going to kill me if I didn't get this under control. I knew that I could never, if I kept eating the way I was, I wouldn't be able to do that in the future anymore. It sounds well, you were saying this and I was relating to it like, yeah, it was literally that was my awakening from a fitness journey standpoint. Like you just hit a point where you go, this is all for an investment in my future.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, I think all of the struggles we have, I think, parallel in some way like that, because they really do originate in our subconscious mind from old stories, and we play them out in our health, or they play them out with our money or in our relationships. And when you go back and heal those pieces, the journey becomes exponentially easier.
Absolutely. So, what would you say is the advice that you would give someone who's listening, who maybe they're in a similar situation to where you were, or maybe they just see the writing on the wall and go, I'm on my way to racking up a huge debt balance and I'm not sure how to get out of it. What would you say is your best advice on where to start or key success factors for you?
Well, first is you definitely have to stop the bleeding, and recognizing that there's an issue and a problem
Mhm.
is a big thing. And then giving yourself some grace. Like, don't beat yourself up in that moment when you have sort of that breaking point. Actually celebrate yourself for seeing it and acknowledging it and being ready to work on it. And I think once you do that, you can take the step back and start to audit where things can shift, and knowing that it's not permanent, and that basically a little bit of effort each day creates a compound effect, and it doesn't have to happen overnight.
Oh, yeah. And I totally agree with that, that it's all micro habits too, just like fitness, where it's small things you can do. And also, if you're not always consistent, give yourself the grace too. Like there are going to be days where you're not 100%, grading yourself 100% on the exam of like, how well did you do today with that? And that's okay.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Something someone said to me also was a big shift in my thought process around debt is we all seem to have a lot of shame and guilt, and we want to, I guess, maybe cover up or hide the fact that we are carrying debt. So somehow we're inherently a failure or bad because we have debt. And a wise woman once said to me that debt is kind of like a loan from the universe. So if you can look at it that way and actually step back and have some gratitude for the fact that you actually had the money available via credit in some sort of way to support you in a time when you needed it, and flip the switch on at that, and now is your time to start chipping away at repaying the universal debt. It really just made me feel a lot better about myself when I started to look at debt in that way.
Yeah. And that's just so important to, it's the reframe too. It's 100% the reframe of what are we doing? What's our objective? I'm going back to this again, but it's just so important to not have shame around that. It's easier said than done, but there's a lot of shame around debt or what that means. Or like people, I've talked to folks who say, I felt like a failure. I felt like I had disappointed myself, disappointed others, that I wasn't meeting expectations of what I should be doing. And all of those things just drum up all these other negative emotions, and it just sends you down into a spiral. And I think that it's easier said than done for me to say, you know, don't feel like that, which is loaded. Like okay, Shan, I won't feel like that. No, it's very real. And I think that if someone can find solace in other stories, other success stories, and knowing that it's possible with the commitment and with a few habit changes, it becomes much more digestible to understand that, like, yes, this is something I can overcome simply, not easily.
Absolutely. And I have to say, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Hmm. I would agree. And it's everyone, nobody, I mean, I love you, Corey, but nobody is special to the degree that like other folks couldn't do what you did. It's very normal using tactical, logical ways to get out of debt. And all it takes is
Yeah.
the commitment.
Absolutely. And it's okay if you falter a little bit. We all
Yeah.
take, two steps forward and one step back. It's just the journey of life.
Yeah. It's got to be moving forward. So I love hearing the story, and I love that you shared this with us. And thank you for, by the way, vulnerably sharing where you were at with this. And I know that this is a topic that most people don't talk about, which is, how much debt they've accumulated or how they arrived there. Because I know people love to tell the story of triumph, but I actually like to share the relatability of a lot of people are in this position and want to hear about, that you feel the same way. So I appreciate that. So with that, I'm going to jump into our rapid fire questions I ask all of our guests at the end of the interview. And they're all money related. You're going to love it because I feel like you're going to have great answers to these. Corey, what is one investment that you just can't live without?
My eyelashes.
I love it. I was just saying I need to make a list of everyone's answers, like one word answers to this question, because there's so many good ones. So eyelashes. What did you learn about money that turned out not to be true?
Uh, that money indicated that you were either a good person or a bad person. And the thought that I used to have was that wealth, more money, was indicative of someone being not a good person.
Yes. Movie villains did not help this situation.
No, they did not.
The rich guy was always the villain.
It's so true.
The rich guy was always the villain. And I was like, but if the hero was rich, the movie wouldn't exist, because the hero
Yeah,
could write a check and then the movie would be over.
absolutely.
So
Right.
that never happens in movies. What makes you feel like a millionaire?
Oh, fresh flowers in my house always.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Such a variety of answers to that question, but I do love that one because that's like a very specific, I can relate to that, where I say there are certain things where I know, all right, we're good.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. Well, yeah. So, tell us a bit more about where folks can find you if they want to hear more about your story or learn about what you do for business owners.
Absolutely. So I am on Instagram, of course. You can find me at Corey Phelps with an underscore at the end. And you can also text me. I have something to share with your audience. I have a free releasing your money blocks training, and you can grab it so easy. All you have to do is text the word wealth, text the word, just one word, wealth, to 202 918 3235. And I'll say that one more time because I always transpose numbers. So I'm gonna do it again for you. Text the word wealth to 202 918 3235.
Perfect. Make sure you give Corey a text. I'm sure she's going to get right back to you with your money blocks training. And I know that will be golden because I know that you have a lot to offer on that area, and you have a lot to share that I've heard you speak on it before. And you guys don't miss out on that. Go take a look at it. So with that, Corey, I just want to say thank you for joining us on the show and for sharing your story. I know that a lot of folks listening out there can relate and are really thankful that you were willing to share that with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here and chat with you today.
Absolutely. All right. I'll see you next time.